Okay, I want to play through this game that a friend of mine sent me. This is my friend Ron Groom. We've been friends for years. Play a lot of chess together. But this is a game that Ron played, and I want to play through it and analyze it a little bit. It's a Danish game, so it's a pretty exciting game. Okay, like I mentioned, this is a 10-minute game, so it's a pretty quick game. 10 minutes gives you a little bit of time to think, but not forever. So if you sit and analyze any position here, you may come up with some better moves. But more importantly, this is a really exciting game because it's a Danish gambit. All right, Ron is white here, and he plays pawn to king 4. And I'm going to use a different chess program here. This is the Droidfish program. You see it here in red, that little red icon, Droidfish. So if you're really a chess guy and you want a real cool program, that's a good one. You can play games against yourself. You can analyze your games. There's a lot of videos on YouTube about how to use it, so I won't go into that. All right, so the game starts out with pawn to king 4. That's pretty normal. Whoops, that's not normal. Pawn to king 4, and black responds with pawn to king 5, or pawn to king 4 in his case. So pretty normal setup there, and white starts to open things up, right? Some people say chess is boring, but if you play it the right way, it can really open up into some exciting games. And white here is right away pushes the pawn to queen 4 and invites black to take that pawn. All right, white could obviously, if black takes this pawn, white could take it with this queen, but then that's going to, kind of give black the advantage because you're bringing your queen out too soon, right? Now black can develop a piece and the white queen has to run away and pretty much go back where it came from. So, that's not really a good choice of moves, right? So e5, d4, black takes the pawn, but instead of white taking it with this queen, white plays, instead of white taking it with this queen, white plays this move, c3, right? He captures d4, c3, and this introduces the Danish gambit. Let me see if I can show that at the bottom here. One cool thing about this program is you can count how many variations the computer shows you at the bottom of the screen. If you notice down here at the bottom now, these numbers that are moving, this first number down here at the bottom, like 19. Here, let me see if I can pull that up. All right, so down here, like at the bottom right here, where this, where you see these numbers 21, 20, 20, that refers to the number of ply that the computer's thinking, meaning the number of moves ahead that it's thinking. So you know it's thinking a bunch of moves ahead. You really don't need to worry about these numbers. All right, the next number here is pretty important, where it says minus 0.32. What it's doing is the computer's analyzing the position there, and anything positive is good for white. Like if the score was +1 or +2 or +3, that's good for white. And of course, the bigger the number, the better you are. Like if you're white and you're +10, you're about ready to win the game. All right. So a negative number would be good for black. Like if the score was -5, that means, black's got a much better game, long story short. So you got an analysis here of the scores of these different lines, telling you how good they are. And then of course you've got the line itself, where it kind of goes out and says the best move at the moment the computer can come up with. For example, for black is d captures c3. That's what that means. The second best move would be, that variation below it, queen to e7. The third best move below it, d5. And if you want to, you can have it show you a whole bunch of different variations and 4 or 5 different game trees. But it's pretty cool when you're playing, because you can say, well, what are some other moves I could have made? I could have played d captures c3. The computer says I could have played d5. I could have played queen to e7. And what would have happened? What would the analysis be? So it's a really cool tool that you can get with this Droidfish program. So let's move on with the game here. White has played c3. That makes it a Danish gambit. Let me. It's not going to tell me what I want to see. That's no problem. We'll hide those. Anyway, so this is called the Danish gambit. On with the game. Black takes that pawn, right? So when you're playing a gambit, what you're doing is you're gambling. It makes for an exciting game, but you're saying, I'm going to give up some material and I'm going to give myself a chance to move quickly and attack quickly. So that's what that does. And you know, so black is now up a pawn. He just took a pawn for free, but he took his pawn out of the center. That's what white's gambling on. And white capitalizes right away with bishop to c4. That's a real common move in this Danish gambit. And you can see that this bishop is, where's my little drawing pad? There it is. See, this bishop is by coming out here like this bishop is now eyeing the king's bishop 2 square, the f7 square. All right, and on a chessboard, this is the weakest square on the board in the beginning of the game. For white, it's right here, all right, because the only piece that guards this square is the king. All right, if you look at every other square, like this square here, the bishop guards this piece. Well, that's pretty good, you know. But the only piece that can guard this one is the king. So if you attack that, it's just a pretty weak spot. All right, so right away, bishop to c4 starts to develop and starts eyeing up this weak square by the king and threatening to check the king and open things up. So that's a pretty nice little gambit here. All right, so on we go. Bishop to c4, and right away here, black plays a funky move. Black plays this queen to f6. See, this is bringing your queen out too soon. Now, black, you know, black by accepting this gambit, you know, when you accept a gambit pawn, you don't have to, but if you do, you're kind of saying, okay, I'm going to take this extra material, and then I'm going to hunker down and play defense, and I'm going to outlast your attack, and in the end, my extra piece is going to win out for me. All right, the other guy is going to attack quickly. You're going to play defense. That's kind of what black has done by accepting this pawn. So black plays queen to f6 here, which I really don't like this move because it just brings the queen out too soon. A more common move is for black to play this, is to play c captures b2. All right, that makes for a really wild game because now, of course, black is threatening to play pawn captures rook and get a queen, but white doesn't let that happen. Usually white plays that, but, you know, that's a whole different story. That's a whole different game, so we'll back that up a little bit. So c3, and then white played bishop to c4, and black plays, that's not what black plays, that's what we wanted black to play. Black plays queen to f6, bringing his queen out a little early, but also, you know, he's kind of threatening white here. You know, he's kind of saying, all right, you want to play an exciting game, you want to play an attacking game, I'm with you. All right, white bounces out and plays knight captures c3 there, developing one of his pieces. That's a good move. Black's turn, bishop to b4, not a bad move, pins the knight against the king. Right now the knight cannot move. White has some options here, but you know, that pin's very uncomfortable, so he wants to get rid of that. Bishop to d2. He also has to support the c3 square, because otherwise he's going to get in a funky position where you get like right here, Tammy Sue. I'm making a little chess video here, which I'm going to have to pause.
You're making a video?
Yeah, you know, I made a little chess video.